Patriots, I've alluded to this idea a couple of times already today, that we are indeed under attack. It was Thomas Jefferson who said that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, human life is the most sacred gift that any of us can be blessed with, or bless another with, is under attack. Liberty. The word has become more synonymous with the statue than the very idea listed in Jefferson's Declaration. Liberty is under attack. The pursuit of happiness, that quest for what we know and we refer to as the American dream, is under attack. These attacks come from a radical pack of political wolves who have disregarded what is meant to keep them in line. Our Constitution is meant to restrict the power, size, reach, and scope of our government. It has been manipulated in ways that invert its purpose, and in some cases, even weaponize it. This is due largely to the lack of awareness of what our Constitution actually stands for. It's why we're here, and it's why our next speaker is so important. Our next speaker is a lifelong Connecticut resident who became politically active in 2007, beginning with his membership in the Tea Party movement. He has since become a proponent of states' rights and the original intent of the United States Constitution. Through years of research, study, and discussion, he has become knowledgeable of the role of our ever-expanding and overreaching government in our state and nation's decline. He's excited to share with you his love of our Constitution and his ideas to motivate others to action. Patriots, please welcome Mark Conrad.
I'm Mark Conrad. We're here to discuss our Constitution, actually our constitutions. Each state has its own constitution. Understanding of your state constitution is just as important, if not more important, to restore the balance of power to our republic, and we must first realize what we have now is not the limited federal government that we stipulated in America's highest law. We are facing an ever-expanding, overreaching, and over-regulating federal government. That is not how it was designed. So many have come to hold the attitude, that's the government, what can you do? We the people are the highest office in our self-governance. We can and must take rightful control. Understand that the Constitution was written for us, for the people. It's not a mysterious document for scholars, judges, lawyers, and politicians. It's ours, we must learn it, and we must learn to live by it. We cannot have limited government if we continually turn to those in government whenever there's a problem. Government servants will always take the opportunity to expand their authority. By asking for help, we are encouraging that expansion, and we pay for it with increased taxes and decreased liberty. We surrender control of our lives and independence to our government. We have, for the most part, been improperly taught our own history, and in particular, our founding and the principles behind our Declaration of Independence and Constitution. The two documents are intimately connected. The Declaration states the reason for our claim of independence and the principles to be established for our self-governance. It states, in part, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, from us, the people. The Constitution is the law that we established for the operation of our federal government as determined by the governed, us, the people. It authorizes, through our states, with our consent, for specifically delegated powers to be administered on our behalf. The Constitution was drafted to replace the Articles of Confederation in order to establish a more perfect union for the people of the United States. The Constitution is a contract between the states which establishes our federal government, its authority, and its limitations. Our federal government, for a long time now, has failed to follow the law, that is the Constitution, or adhere to the principles in the Declaration of Independence. It's overreaching, overbearing, and it is overwhelming the states who created it. We have allowed for a federal empire to emerge and rule over 50 colonies. The legislative branch unconstitutionally delegates its authority to the other branches, as well as to unelected, appointed officials in unconstitutional agencies and federal bureaucracies. It is no longer the voice of the people or the states in the federal government, but a messenger to them from federal rulers. Congress works to restrict our rights rather than protect them, and to change the structure of government by writing law rather than through amendment. The executive branch. The executive branch becomes more king-like as it assumes the powers and accepts authority illegally delegated to it. These appropriated powers are both supported and criticized based on political party. There is no real attempt to check this expansion, as each party wants that power for itself. The judicial branch has become activist through legislating from the bench. The Supreme Court has become the self-proclaimed arbiter of the Constitution and all things constitutional. It has become an oligarchy, as Thomas Jefferson warned. In a letter to William Jarvis in September of 1820, he wrote, "The Constitution has erected no such single tribunal, knowing that whatever hands confided with corruptions of time and party, its members would become despots. We must learn our rights, our role in government, and most importantly, the actual limited role of the federal government in our private lives and businesses. We must learn the true role of our states as the creators of the federal government to be an ultimate check on federal authority. We must understand that what we have now is not a union of sovereign, independent states that came together as partners to ordain and establish the contract for the United States known as the Constitution. We have become a collection of subservient federal provinces. James Madison said in Federalist 45, "The powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state government are numerous and indefinite. The powers reserved to the states will extend to all objects in which the ordinary course of affairs concern the lives, liberties, properties of the people, and the internal order, improvement, and prosperity of the state. The only way to restore the proper role of our federal government is to restore the proper role of our states." Connecticut has a place in history as one of the first colonies to stand against tyranny and fight for liberty. One of the 13 original states to declare independence from the state of Great Britain. Connecticut is now a bastion of big government and socialist policies. We have become subservient to federal control. Connecticut was the home of Roger Sherman at the time of our founding. He was a representative of Connecticut at the Philadelphia Convention and instrumental in the ratification of the Constitution. It is Sherman's stated belief that no laws bind the people but such as they consent to be governed by. In contrast to a representative of Roger Sherman's character, those who claim to represent Connecticut today promote programs and policies outside the delegated authority of the federal government and work to establish federal supremacy over the states. We now have 2 U.S. senators and numerous representatives who are criminal in their continuing efforts to regulate our right to keep and bear arms in direct opposition to the protection of the Second Amendment. Furthermore, they promote red flag laws. These are insidious, destructive pathways to the removal of our liberty. Red flag laws, or extreme risk protection orders, and the TAPS Act not only violate the protections of the Second Amendment, but the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th as well. From warrantless, unreasonable search and seizure, deprivation of liberty and property without due process, denial of the right to face one's accuser, to a trial by jury of one's peers, and the imposition of excessive bail and a cruel and unusual punishment. Once again, I like to refer to the wisdom of Thomas Jefferson. The government closest to the people serves the people best. Your town government should be the most important to you and have the most influence on you, followed by county, then state, finally, in those specifically delegated areas, the federal government. Within our own state government, the control exerted on our lives, businesses, finances, and communities is overreaching and excessive. The state has undue influence on local education, budgets, land management, social programs, just to name a few. The state of Connecticut has passed the largest tax increase since the income tax, for the third time since 2011. These are tax increases with spending increases that do not address the excessive waste in our state government. It is up to us to hold our representatives responsible for reasonable and appropriate application of the citizens' money which they collect through taxes. The state has passed unconstitutional gun laws and red flag laws, laws that violate the Constitution of the state of Connecticut. And it continues to work towards enacting more of these laws. In Article 1, Section 15 of our Constitution, it is stated, every citizen has the right to bear arms in defense of himself and the state. There is no limitation on what type of arms, the capacity of said arms, so therefore, the restrictions of such is unconstitutional. In Article 1, Section 7, it says, the people shall be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and possessions from unreasonable searches or seizures, and no warrant to search any place or to seize any person or thing shall issue without describing them as nearly as possible, nor without probable cause supported by oath or affirmation. No provision is made to supersede this for concern of a person's well-being or a suggestion of fear of safety of others. The Constitution of the State of Connecticut declares in Article 1, Section 2, all political power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their benefit. They have at all times an undeniable and indefeasible right to alter their form of government in such a manner as they may think expedient. It is up to us, the people of Connecticut, to stand up against violation of our Constitution and to the violations against the U.S. Constitution being supported by our misrepresentatives to the federal government. The states, as creators of the federal government, must be the final check on federal overreach. The people must ensure the states regain control of our federal government by re-establishing constitutional lawful sovereignty of their states and electing representatives who hold to those principles. So who are we waiting for? This is our state, and we must take rightful control of it. We must educate ourselves and begin the work of restoring our liberty. We did not get here overnight. It will take time to restore what we have lost and what we have given away. But don't let that discourage you. Look at Ben Franklin for your example. He began his efforts in the fight for liberty at age 16, writing as Silence Dogood. He was 81 when he was a delegate at the Constitutional Convention. The problems we are facing today are due to our failure to follow the Constitution. The fight to hold on to original intent was already taking place in the 1820s, as expressed by Thomas Jefferson, who said, the recent recall to our first principles, however, will, I hope, be heard and obeyed. In an appeal to his contemporaries, he said, yet be not weary of doing well. Let the eye of vigilance never be closed. We have wearied. We have let our eyes close. Now is time for renewed vigilance. I appeal to all of you now to become involved in any way possible. Educating ourselves and sharing what we learn, to attending rallies and events, to contacting your representatives, writing testimony to and for or against legislation, and to the people we choose to represent us, and even to holding public office ourselves. We must speak out now. We must act now. As Patrick Henry said, should I keep back my opinions at such time through fear of giving offense, I should consider myself as guilty of treason towards my country and an act of disloyalty to the majesty of heaven. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mark Conrad. This topic, I mean, I'm just going to briefly, his topic is so important, and there are so many people in the country that just don't understand the significance of what he said, on how important it is for us at the state level, at the local level, to hold government and our elected officials accountable and responsible to make sure that they are acting on our behalf. So once again, Mark, that was just fantastic and extremely important. Remember, it's not about convincing, this is what everybody know Dan Bongino? Yeah. It's not about convincing the liberal, it's about convincing those who are listening to us try to convince the liberal. And what Mark said, it's common sense, and it's going to resonate with the country if we continue to spread what he just was talking about. So thank you, Mark.